You're welcome,
Well,
Miss Prerna, to this.
welcome, Ida.
Well, everyone joining in. This is a conversation about scandalous delights. Um, and we are talking about, what are we talking about today, Prerna?
And I just want to share this with everyone that's going to be watching this. We changed the topic about 6 times. The topic we finally are going to talk about is the power of vulnerability. Um, and that is one of those. Wow, I'm already like, there is someone here already. Hello, Sandhya.
Hi, Sandhya. Hi, everyone.
So, what is vulnerability for you, Ina Basur? I love your name, by the way, Ina Basur. So sassy.
Thank you. Ina Mina Dika, Dana Dana Dika, Maka
Nika.
Naka Naka, Chica Pika Rika, Hi Nika
Rampampo.
Nika.
Sharampampo. Like I.
Um, from Pampo. Yes. Well, it's interesting, but like you said, it's like how we started talking and chatting about it, and then the more we chatted, talked about it, the more present we got with what was available and the energies that we oftentimes think that when we have something going on, that it's only going on for us, but we are kind of aware of lot of stuff that's going on, generally in the world around us and beyond. And so it's interesting when you're just willing to be present with it and not making it about you all the time, but also including you, a different space that can become available. So I wonder who all is joining us, who all is looking for a different space, a different possibility around vulnerability.
I have something that's activated. I'm not even sure which bar this is. I think it's kindness, gratitude, peace, and calm. Anyway, so when was, oh, that's a great question. Like, when was the last time you were grateful for your vulnerability?
Just now, when we started talking,
And how many times have we, as a collective, shunned it away as a sort of weakness or a sort of like, yeah, no, if I'm vulnerable, then I come across as weak and I come across as someone that can be harmed and someone that would, that they can take an advantage. They have an advantage over me or a leg above me. And we have Sandhya who's saying women are more vulnerable than men. They always love to do new things in life and try to create more power in their lives. I know a few men that are more vulnerable than me. So,
but okay, so
where
let's
are the
look at
humanoid?
vulnerability. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what
let's
is
look at it.
what is it for you? Like what is vulnerability for you?
I see it as like really not having quote unquote any barriers to everything that's happening around you or anyone or anything. Because how many of us, like, and I was talking about it in a class recently, like, how many of us were truly, like, how vulnerable were we when we were just born, like, as a newborn baby? Like, that level of vulnerability, that allowance to be naked and vulnerable and exposed to the environment is what is vulnerability for me. Doesn't mean I necessarily go around naked exposed to the environment as a grown-up woman. Although that's a possibility too. But like being willing to like really push my barriers down and um just be with whatever is going on with everything that's going on around you and being willing, it's like how Gary Douglas says, it's being willing to be the open wound and without any scabs and without any protection and allowing, like, even the wind moving on the wound, it can be immensely intense and uncomfortable, but still choosing to be an open wound and still choosing to have everything go on and still receive everyone and everything that's going on around you at all times. And the reason why I love vulnerability so much is the level of awareness that you can have of the past, present, and future if if you're willing to be vulnerable versus willing to not be vulnerable creates like the sort of blockage to your awareness. So what we think is, oh, we are protecting ourselves from this evil world. Uh, and then, like, would an infinite being really need protection? And what lie are you perpetuating on yourself with the need for protection? So what would it be like to be needless with protection, like not require it, not
Yeah.
desire it?
Well, I've oftentimes found that when I think I'm protecting myself is when I'm actually the most vulnerable because I've cut off my awareness to everything that's actually going on. Yeah, like that is a sense, right? It's like the willingness to be present with what's really going on. Like I love that. Like when we started off, I was like, let's call it. I can't remember what else. So I call myself what you can call yourself else. So, and you're like, oh my goodness, if one more time I hear that. And then you came up with the title, and I was like, oh my goodness, if one more time that I hear that. And so, but that's the thing that what if vulnerability was the willingness to really be willing to receive the good, bad, and the ugly, the willing to receive everything about you. Like I find that when I'm the place where we give up our vulnerability is where we're trying to get it right or be right. And that's the one place where we don't have the sense of ourselves. But guess what we're trying to do with trying to be right? We're trying to get a space of us and we go far away from it. So, but the willingness to really be present with, hey, what's going on here? What's truly going on? Gets you out of preconceived notions, assumptions, conclusions, decisions, and definitions to, oh, I didn't see that coming. Oh, is that what's going on? Okay, cool. Then have you noticed that most of the time when you're present with something, you can actually change it or you can ask a question about it or someone will come and give you information that's required that can become, it's like you said that when we, judgment is so like, vulnerability is so much like considered as a weakness because you're supposed to know who you are and you're supposed to know what you're going to show up as at all times and you're supposed to know your perfect angle and only show that. Like I find it interesting that StreamYard flips that on its head a little bit because like I would think that Prerna is like on this side but she's actually on this side. So nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be and everything is the opposite of what it appears to be.
Yeah. I like when we like, I don't really use StreamYard. I'm not StreamYard friendly yet. So when Ina was like, let's do it on StreamYard, I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And then come here, I was like, this is not my good angle. Like, this is not, like, it's the other side. But actually, it's not. But actually, it is. Actually, it isn't. So I think I'm showing my good side to people. But I mean, I think I want to show the good side of myself to people because I want to be perceived a certain way. But what if I'm actually showing the ugly bits of me and not being willing to like see what I'm showing to the world? Like, what is the perception of you in the world? Like, what do people, beyond the projections of what you think you look like, what are you being perceived as? And I think that was like, that's interesting because like we were just talking, we were having a bit of behind the scene facilitation happening before this call
Like you
started,
do.
like like one does. and we and I was like, and I was just having this conversation where I was like, I had a bit of a weird start to the day. Hello, Facebook user, we don't know who you are, but hello. Like, your name doesn't show to us in StreamYard, but I'm sure you have a name, so hello. And I was like, I'm unwilling to be a bitch at times. And this morning I woke up and I had to sort of be bitchy with a few people. And oh, it's
Hello, color.
Palak. I was going to say Palak, but I was like, that's probably not right. Palak. I was like, is it Paluk? No, it's not Paluk. It's Palak.
And there's Allison.
Hello, everyone joining in. I was,
Hey,
I was
hey
like, I
friend,
don't.
long time.
And I said, I don't want to be looked at as a bitch. I don't want that perception of me to go out in the world and that concept of me to go out in the world. Um, so, what are you unwilling to be that if you're willing to be it, and if you're willing to have that? image or that judgment of you go out in the world, like what would that create for you? And like that requires vulnerability, because today I had to be what energy I require to be to get things moving. And to me that's a wrongness. Like to be a bitch is a wrongness in my universe. But if I was truly being vulnerable, it required like that potency and that like sort of intensity to get things like, hey guys, move it, come on, move it, let's go. Like it's enough, like get up, let's go, let's go. um and what if true vulnerability doesn't look like what we think it looks like? What if it's not weakness? What if it's not an image? What if it's not a definition, like you said? What if it's not what we think it is? So what do you think you being vulnerable looks like, that actually has nothing to do with what you look like? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that because it's like when you're willing, like a lot of times what you've decided is worst about you, or that you think that you need to hide from the world. I've noticed, like through many classes, many facilitations, and many sessions, that oftentimes, and with myself, that oftentimes that is actually what is your strength and your ability and your capacity that you're sort of perverting. You're twisting it around to use it against you rather than using it to create more. And that's like what you like the energy of, let's say, being a bitch. If you were just looking at the energy of that and you didn't have the conclusion of that means anything or that means being a bitch. But if you just look at the energy of what you were being without the definition of it being a bitch, what would you actually be? What did you require to be? And what was it creating?
Yep.
It opens a whole different world of choices and possibilities that through these definitions and through these conclusions we keep outside of us or unavailable uh, to actually stepping up. And it was interesting that when we were talking, you were also saying, I was like, okay, so what is that choice creating in those people's world? And you were like, oh, they're relaxing. Their body is in more space. But it's your willingness, like to always have that clarity that creates more space. So I would love to invite everyone to. Vulnerability is actually one of the five elements of intimacy that I haven't really seen anywhere else talked about or addressed the way or invited us to the way it's done in Access Consciousness. And I mean, brilliance of Gary and Dane. And it's like what it's the five elements of intimacy is what I realize is what always creates greater when I'm willing to choose it and when I'm willing to have it. And they are um, trust, trust that someone will always choose what they will choose. If they're not going to pick up the toilet seat, they're not going to pick up the toilet seat. Okay, so if that's the choice, that's not a choice that you have, making them pick up the seat. What other choice do you have available? Honor is honoring that someone will choose what they'll choose when they'll choose, and that you will choose whatever you choose whenever you choose. So, what choice and possibility do you have available with that? You oftentimes give up on these things for like this sort of utopian ideal of how things are supposed to be, and they're constantly like when find myself when I'm feeling frustrated, where I'm functioning from some sort of an expectation or some sort of a utopian ideal of what I've decided has to look like, rather than going what's going on and what are the choices available here. So trust, honor, vulnerability that we are talking about right now is the willingness to really go what's going on here and be present. Vulnerability, gratitude, being grateful for everything, good, bad, ugly, and
Allowance. Allow.
allowance, which is a little different than acceptance. Acceptance is going, if this person is choosing this, this must be right. Or if I'm choosing it, I'm wrong or I'm right. But it's actually the space of not acceptance, but it's from the space of allowance where you're like, okay, this is what's going on. This is what is truly going on. This is what I'm choosing, or this is what this person is choosing, or this is what is available. And then being the question of what else is possible, like what choice do I have available here?
And they are sort
A
of like all
whole different world.
they are sort of like all integral and integrated in each other. Like, can you really be vulnerable without allowance? Can you really have gratitude without trusting yourself? Can you really honor someone without being grateful for them? So like it's all interconnected. It's not like, oh, I will only have vulnerability and I'm not going to have allowance, or I'm only going to have gratitude but I'm not going to look at honor. So these are all tied together, and they all always will create a space of, well, allowance by itself creates so much, but also like vulnerability is seen as such a, like, and that's why we're like really hitting that nail on the head in terms of like, what are you unwilling to be vulnerable with, and what are you willing to be vulnerable with, and who are you willing to be vulnerable with, and who are you not willing to be vulnerable with, and what, when is it okay to be vulnerable, and when is it okay to not be vulnerable, where is it okay to be vulnerable, where is it not okay to be vulnerable, and all the places where you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, what if those are the places that really do require you to be vulnerable to create a sort of change and to create more choices for you? Because what I have been learning intensively since the last few days is that removing me from the computation of my life requires a level of energy to be used against me, and a level of like the opposite of vulnerability. Like, it requires solidification, it requires like removing myself. If I'm going to make everyone else's realities real, and that's what we do, we make everyone's realities real, relevant, true, and what's true for us, because we are not vulnerable enough, we are not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable enough to know what is true for me, what is real for me, what is of value to me, what is true for me. And it's always about, oh, what's true for that person, what's valuable for that person, like what's going on with that person. Oh, let me compensate, let me make everything go according to what they require and what they desire. Where are you in the competition? And to know and to like invite yourself in the creation of your own life, in the competition of your own life, like creating your business, creating your body, it requires you to be vulnerable. If you're not vulnerable with yourself, how do you know what you require, what you desire, what you need, what you want, what you want to choose, what you want to create? Like, it's not gonna happen, ladies and gentlemen. So what if you could be courageous enough, and the level of courage it requires to be vulnerable? Let's talk about that for a second. Like, who around you do you know that is actually willing to be that vulnerable? So where do you learn this from? Babies, maybe. Hang out with little infants and babies and animals and nature, and where they have like literally no barriers. Like, this is what I am, this is my true nature. Who in humans finding that sort of like perception of their true nature is really difficult. So, would you be willing to find your true nature and your true wildness and your true vulnerability? And yeah, I mean, and like Alison is saying, to be the true potency we must be vulnerable with ourselves. And that is so true. How are you going to be potent without knowing what is your potency? How would you know what is your potency if you weren't willing to be vulnerable? So,
Yeah,
all
and I love what I'm so glad you mentioning that, because I love about that is that there is no destination. Like I don't know about you, but every time that I found, yay, I am vulnerable, that's like the moment it's gone. So it's this constant, it's this continuous choice and a desire to have more of it and be more of it. And it's like this space where you can choose more of that every 10 seconds. Like, it's also the willingness to like go, oh, I'm not really being vulnerable, and that's fine too. Okay, cool. What can I choose now? Rather than sometimes we go into the wrongness of what we are choosing and then try to make that right. But it's really going, okay, that's what's going on. Like, there were so many things that you were saying that uh, there was one key thing I wanted to actually touch upon. It's oftentimes that it's difficult for us to even perceive what's going on is when we are not willing to really have that clarity on what is that we desire. Like I remember the first foundation, like before I did that, like when I was asked what is it that you like to create, I was so much in everyone else's world and what everyone else requires, which if you're willing to know what you desire to create is a capacity. It's not something that you need to get rid of or lose. But if you're willing to actually go, what is it that you desire to create? You can use that to create more. And that's what the invitation for me, like the foundation was. I remember the first time I made that list, what do I desire to create? I put down like some 10, 15 things, and they were mostly what I thought I was supposed to desire. Because then I thought if I achieved all of these, I will absolutely fit in and be successful in this reality. And I realized I created those rather quickly. If you're on this call, you must realize that about yourself, that things are easy for you, and they're so easy, you don't want to do them. Um, but I realized that I did them so quickly that I had to really look at it and say, oh, I know what these guys are going to create. I'm not even creating that. It's like there's so much more that's possible and that's available. And then I had to really look at what is true for me. For the first time ever, I had to really look at, and it keeps on changing. I mean, I know you have a foundation class coming up, right? I have a foundation class coming up as well, and we wanted to invite everyone to this possibility. If you would so would like to have, or not, that's okay too. But I had the sense of like even with this class is coming up, I'm actually stepping into a way more space of what's really true for me. Like I'm realizing, like beyond the space of who I am, beyond the definition, like beyond being a wife, being a partner, being a friend, being a colleague, being a this thing, or being the definitions of whatever that might be, happy person, business entrepreneur, whatever these definitions and images that we create. What's the core energy underneath it? And I'm realizing that there are things like and never give up, never quit, never uh, you know um, what's the third one? Never
Never
give
give.
up, never quit, never give in. Like it might take years, but I realize it shows up. Uh, I'm realizing things that about myself that go beyond that. I always ask for more, and that's not always what everyone is going to be an allowance of, but I can be an allowance of it for me and for everyone. So it's the willingness to really look at what is really truly true for you. What is it that you truly desire to create? And what is it that you require, desire, want, and need that will create that? And then that sort of includes everyone. When you actually don't include yourself, it's very difficult you to include others because you're trying to include them and then you exclude them and then you include them and exclude them. It's like this yo-yo sort of space. Is that does that make any sense?
Of course, to me it does. And yeah, I mean, what if, and I also like sometimes feel that if people come for a foundation, we are going to take everything away from them, what is valuable to them, and we're going to take away all their definitions, and we're going to change their
Yeah.
life so dynamically that they wouldn't that it scares them and it terrifies them. And I just want to say, like, give up what you want to give up and don't give up what you don't want to give up. You always have choice, and you can just attend foundation as a level 2. So if you've done an access bars, the next level that you do is a foundation. It's 4 days of really digging up everything that you think is true for you and just looking at and asking, is this true for me? That's it. If you are sad, we just dig that up and we're like, is this true for you? If you're suffering with poverty, we just dig that up and we're like, is this true for you? Is this working for you? Does this make you happy? Like, if you're having a terrible relationship, we'll just dig that up and we'll ask you, is that making you happy? Is that true for you? And that's it. And if it's true for you, you keep it. And even if it's not true for you, you still keep it. Like, no one's taking anything about your life away that you don't want to give up. But also, like, this is something that we words can't justify what an Access Consciousness Foundation class does create for people, and we can't even put in words what it would create for you. It'll create something. It'll create something magical and miraculous that we can't find the words for, no matter how much I try. Like, every time someone comes and asks me and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, Access Consciousness, what is that? The one modality that is crazy as fuck but has changed everything in my life, it totally is. And then they're like, no, that doesn't make sense. I mean, what if it is that easy? And all it requires is for you to have the willingness to choose a class, and that's it. So with whoever you want to choose a class with. I have a foundation coming up on 22nd April. It's in Alibag. It's an offline retreat, 4 days in a beautiful private villa with a private pool, with me and some other crazy people there, and whoever are choosing the class. And Ina has a foundation starting on.
21st. So it's 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and you can attend it online from anywhere. And anyone who really, really wants it physically, we are making it available for you in Greater Noida. And yeah, like I oftentimes find, and this is with me as well, that what I resist actually is where my capacity lies. Like I oftentimes find that what people are resisting or avoiding it, that they'll find out how brilliant they are or how great they are. And that's what we've been that's that's not something that we are used to hear, used to receive, used to acknowledge or be. So, and that sort of terrifies people quite a bit. I mean,
But I also do want to add, like, I've not had many interactions with Ina. I remember meeting Ina the first time in a 7 day class in Langkawi. But there isn't, like, like, my awareness of Ina is that she doesn't really communicate with words, but she's energetically, like, fucking amazing. Like, she goes right to the point and she knows exactly what's going on, and she will, like, and that is terrifying for people, and I get that. Like, people don't want to be shown the mirror, they don't want to know where the issue is. So it can be terrifying, but that level of clarity and that level of, like, oh, this is what it is, and this can be changed. And she's gonna not probably one of those, I don't know, like, facilitators that doesn't really talk much, but can facilitate massively, like, energetically. So I remember, like, and
that
she's
is
like,
so funny. I was known to be the most talkative in my family and in the
I
world
know.
while growing up.
Maybe you
It's
just don't
interesting
talk
that you say that. Hmm.
maybe you just don't talk to me. With words. So I mean, like, it's just yeah, I forgot what I was saying, but yeah,
But thank you. Yeah.
you're welcome. I'm going to remember it when I remember it, and I'm going to message you when I remember what I was about to say. But yeah, and oh yeah, what Gary says, that silence is that ability to have people lean in and listen to what you're saying. And I think Ina does a phenomenal job of that. Like, I whenever I call her, or we have a contribution call with each other, we're like, say, oh my god, the silence is terrifying. Like, Ina, say something. Ina, say something. And then she'll say one question and one statement, and I'll say, oh yeah, okay, cool, done,
Wow,
thanks.
that is so interesting you say that. Because, like, how many times, like, how much of the talking that I was doing when I was a kid was to avoid, to make people comfortable, or so that they are not terrified
Yep.
of their own greatness and their own presence and this thing. So, what if, what is really possible? Really, I'm excited. I just got even more excited about these classes.
Awesome.
And you can find a lots of amazing facilitators around the world, uh, who you I'm going to share the link. You can go to accessconsciousness.com/foundation, and you'll find a whole bunch of classes there. I think I shared the correct link, but I'll check it as well. You can find a whole bunch of classes this, and for India and actually the whole world, because it's available online as well. Gary Douglas, the founder and co-creator of Access Consciousness, is coming to India after like a seems like a
5 years.
lifetime. Uh, wow. To India for a choice of possibility class. That is one of the core classes that only 4 people in the world facilitate. And he will be facilitating that class in Mumbai live and online anywhere. And foundation class is a prereq, is one of the prereqs before foundation. For anyone who doesn't know this, before foundation class also you have to have attended a bars class, at least one bars class, then you attend one foundation class, and then you can attend a class like Choice of Possibilities with Gary. So if that's what you're targeting, look up what do you know? You'll know if this is real. Like, I don't know about you, Prerna, but like most times I didn't even hear what people were saying. But when I found Access Consciousness or Access Consciousness tools found me, and I was like, that whatever that is, it makes no sense to me. It doesn't sound like what anyone else is talking about, but I'll have it because it creates a lightness in my world in a space that I knew was possible. So,
And like I
how was
always
it
say,
for you?
I always say about the foundation to everyone. It's like when I attended the first foundation as a participant and I held that manual in my hand and I read it, I felt like Gary Douglas, who's the creator of Access Consciousness, had gone inside my head and written everything that goes on inside my head and made a book out of it. And now I'm learning it. And I was like, this, what? Did he go inside my head? How does he know what I think? Like, how is this, you know? So it's like, if you think you're really weird and wacky and the people around you don't get you, come to Access, come to a foundation class. You might just hold that manual in your head and you might feel like someone's gone inside and taken the stuff out of your head and put it in a book, and you will, for me, the first time in my life I felt, oh, I feel seen. I feel like someone understands me. I feel like someone understands where I operate from. Before that, I was like, there's no one in the world like me. I'm one of a kind. मैं हूँ ही नहीं इस दुनिया की. I was like, there's no one like me at all. I don't know where my
Which
people
might
are.
be
I
true.
don't. As there is no one out here that can relate to me. There's no one out here I can relate to. Then I found Access, and or Access found me, or whatever. Like I was asking for something different. I was asking for something different. I was asking for something different. The foundation, that manual, I hold that close to my heart every day of my life because here's the different I was looking for all my life. So if that's what you're looking for, come. There are bazillions facilitators around the world that are facilitating a foundation. Go with whoever you want to go with and have fun and be different. Thank you for doing this, Ina. It's always a
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. And
And to everyone who
what else
watched
is possible?
blabber our guts out, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us. We'll see
Yeah,
you
and
and
thank you for you.
thank you for you. Bye.
Hi.